you as an entrepreneur, 25 years old, if you have something to do, you're already doing it, I think. But if you still have something to do,
that's true.
Now is the time.
Life is too short.
I know. So what do you have for us today?
So today we'll be talking about whether you should pay off student loans early or whether you should start paying off. Whether you should pay off loans early versus saving for retirement or saving for a big investment.
All right. It's here for now 45 minutes to the hour. Let's have a back. Now you have tribute and condolences. Now it's time for Money Talks. Over to you, Jeff.
All right. Thank you all for tuning in to WGHC 98.3 FM, your voice, your music, your station. My name is Jeff Badu, and I'm a licensed certified public accountant in the state of Illinois. I'm the owner and practitioner of my firm, Badu Tax Services. And my firm specializes in tax preparation, tax planning, and tax representation for individuals and businesses. So today's topic is whether you should pay off your student loans early or whether you should basically save for retirement. So for some people, what they do is they actually delay saving for retirement in order to pay off certain bills, such as student loans. But before we do that, I would like to kick it off with a market report. So this report is as of August 11th, so as of last Friday. And essentially what happened was that investors were disturbed by the rising tensions between the U.S. and North Korea last week, resulting in a shift from stocks to long-term bonds. And then the Dow, which had surged to new record highs the previous week, sunk over 1% last week, while the large cap S&P 500 fell almost 1.5%, following some less than stellar second quarter corporate earnings reports. And once again, the biggest drop was felt by the small cap Russell 2000, which suffered the largest weekly decline of the indexes and has lost most of its year-to-date gains. On the other hand, demand for the 10-year treasuries have increased, which sent yields to their lowest level since June. And then the price of crude oil went down from $49.52 per barrel to $48.79. And then the price of gold went from $12.64.30 to $12.95. And so far the market has still been doing pretty good. It's gone up. Dow Jones has gone up over 10% so far this year. NASDAQ is up over 16%. S&P 500 up 9%. Russell 2000 not doing too well, but up 1%. And Global Dow is up 11.6%. And so today's topic is really on whether you should pay off your student loans early or actually start getting into investing or start contributing more towards your retirement. And so this is a very heavily debated topic. It's probably top 3, whether you should pay off student loans early or whether you should start saving for retirement. And so some people can't stand student loans, or any loans for that matter. They just think it's something that's on their back. They just absolutely hate it. And they just think that paying off the loans faster instead of saving for retirement is a smart strategy. However, this can be a very costly mistake. And I'll share with you some reasons why later on. But essentially, there's a concept of paying yourself first. And so with paying yourself first, it basically means in this concept, or in this aspect, it means save for retirement first before you actually start paying off those student loans, or before you pay them off completely. And so student loans, in my opinion, are the second best loans to have, next to interest-free loans. And the reason why is because they come with tax benefits. That's one reason why. They come with tax benefits. You can deduct up to $2,500 in interest payments each and every year. Essentially, let's say you're able to write off all your interest. You're basically making this now an interest-free loan. And then also the interest rates aren't really that high compared to other loans, such as credit cards, maybe a payday loan, or some type of personal loan that you took out in the past. And then with student loans, remember, it is a loan, so it does help build your credit score. So that's another huge benefit, is that if you don't have a good or a mature credit history, by paying off these loans each and every month, you're actually building credit each and every month. And this can help you get financing for certain things like a home. It can help you buy a car. It can help you get in on an investment maybe. And so essentially it does help build your credit at least. And then student loans are unsecured loans, meaning that they're not backed by anything. It's not like they can come and take your degree from you if you default on the loans. You've already earned that degree. So there's nothing for them to back unless they physically go and attach to something, some property, which is usually not the case. So just like credit cards, student loans are unsecured loans. Just means that they're not attached by anything. It's not like a home mortgage where the home is attached to the mortgage, or it's not like a car note where the car is attached to the note. Student loans, there's nothing that's attached to it. And so this is more of a default or bankruptcy related concept. So that's another benefit, at least, is that it is an unsecured loan. And then what you can do is, due to the lower than usual interest rates on certain loans, you can leverage the time value of money, meaning that instead of paying off the loans early, you can actually go out and invest the money. Let's say you are saving for retirement. You go out and invest whatever the difference is of what you would have paid off had you not thought about investing it. So let's say your student loans now are $10,000 and you're paying $500 a month, hypothetically. Those are your minimum payments. And so that $500 a month, if you keep doing that, you take whatever the difference is that you invest. So let's say you're only 2 months into the loan, and in month 2 you could pay it off with $10,000, or you can invest $9,000. Basically, you can invest that $9,000 into somewhere else. So the time value of money basically says that since that loan has a lower interest rate than what you can probably earn in the market on average, if you compare, let's say this is a 2-year loan, if you actually invest it versus paying it off, you'd have actually made more money over time by investing it versus you just paying it off and losing out on tax benefits, credit score benefits, and things like that. So just know that there's ways to leverage the time value of money, just due to these different things, such as being able to write off the interest. And so a 6% interest loan, student loan, might only be 3% if you're writing off the interest on your tax return. So that's just one thing to consider. And then nowadays you have loan deferment and loan, all these different ways to pay. So if you're not working or anything, you can always defer your loan payments to the future. They have income-based payment options. So if you're not making that much money as you thought you would, and your loan payments would be much higher than, or a little higher than you expected compared to what you're making, then essentially what you can do is you can have an income-based option where your loan payments are based on how much you're making. So overall, it's a very flexible type of loan to have. So not only the tax benefits, not only the lower than usual interest rates, not only the building a credit score, but it's also flexible and manageable. And although it feels like paying it early is sort of getting this loan off your back, at the end of the day, it's not a financially sound move. It's much better to actually go out and invest that money instead. And then, so here's another time value of money concept. I know some people who pay off their student loans before they pay off their credit cards, which is definitely not a financially sound move, because your credit card interest rates are, let's say, 17 to 25%, and your student loan rates are definitely less than 10%, even the private ones. So let's say you have a public one, a public student loan that's around 5%, and you're paying that off before you pay off a 25% interest rate loan in a credit card. That's not a financially sound move at all, because you're losing 20% of your money each and every year. So that's just something to consider, you might want to pay off those high interest rate loans before you get into the student loans. And then always, as always, when I say this, some people, I don't know why, but some people get confused and think that I mean don't pay them at all. You should always pay your minimum payments. Always make your payments on time. What I'm referring to is don't rush or accelerate the payments. Meaning don't make 2 payments in 1 month when only one month's payment is due. Or don't take a lump sum of $10,000 and put it towards a student loan 1 month. If the loan payment is $300, that's all you should pay each and every month. So that's what I mean. And if you don't do that, you're going to take a hit on your credit score, and you'll have some angry people knocking at your door probably. And then if interest rates, so here's when it does make sense to pay it off early. So if interest rates are very high, and or you're not eligible to write it off because your income is too high or something like that, then you might want to pay it off, because at this point now you might be losing money by not paying it off. Say your interest rates are 10% and you can't write it off because your income is a bit too high. So in that sense, I don't think the average investor, or I don't think it's easy to make 10% in an investment anywhere in the market. So it might be best just to pay it off in that sense. If you're not getting the benefit, you're not getting the tax benefit, you're not getting the, you're basically getting overpaying essentially now if you're not, by not paying it off. So if your interest rates are too high, or if you're not eligible to write it off, then you should probably just pay it off early. And another case is if your debt ratio is too high. So let's say you're trying to get a mortgage. You're trying to buy a home, and they see that your debt ratio is a little too high, and your student loans has a lot to do with it. Let's just say, for example, then you might want to pay them off or pay them down a little bit, just so your debt ratio gets a little lower. And then also note that student loans, so here's another thing. Student loans in most cases are nothing more than a bill. It's just like a typical bill, like a car payment or a medical insurance bill or anything like that. It's nothing more than a bill, really. And so for you to get it off your back as soon as possible, you're still going to have other bills that you're going to have to pay in the future or now. And so the whole concept of, I'm trying to get it off my back because of this whole stigma about student loans being over $1 trillion out there right now. Just know that, in my opinion, financially, it doesn't make sense to pay off the student loans early, especially when you're getting your tax benefits, especially when it's building your credit score, especially when the interest rates aren't that high, especially when you know you can make something higher in an investment, or you're not saving for retirement enough, and especially when it's flexible. Let's say you have income-based payment options. So when you have all these positives versus the negatives, then it might be financially sound to actually not pay them off early. So in my opinion, I don't think overall it's smart to pay off your student loans early. And now into the saving for retirement. And so this whole concept of pay yourself first. Remember, that's what Robert Kiyosaki thrives off of in his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And so really paying yourself first means basically save for retirement before you go out and try to pay off those student loans. And this is a very important concept because it's going to push you to not just work harder, but it's going to push you to make more money. Because if all this money is going towards your retirement savings, and it's going to keep pushing you to keep putting more and more and more. And then that way you're accelerating. So it's like, I was saving 10%. Well, now I don't see this money anymore. So now let me actually bump it up to 15%. Or let me do 20%, which is very doable in today's day and age. So I think paying yourself first really teaches you a lot of discipline. It forces you to save versus basically spending the money. And then, so essentially, majority of Americans aren't saving for retirement for whatever reason. They just aren't saving for retirement. And by delaying retirement savings or not saving at all, it can cost you a lot in the future. And let me explain why. So you would be missing out on so much compound interest that it would just be completely unfinancially or financially unsound to not save for retirement, because you're missing out on this compound interest, meaning that money that grows on top of money over time. And remember, if you're paying off the student loans early, now compound interest is working against you, because now that person or the government is taking your money, investing it, and making it grow over and over and over again. And then also there's a lot of tax benefits. So if you're not saving for retirement, not only are you missing out on compound interest, but you're also missing out on a lot of tax benefits. And so retirement accounts are tax advantage, or they're tax advantageous. And that things like Roth IRA, which is one of my favorite retirement savings vehicles out there. You have traditional IRA. If you're not taking advantage of these things, you're essentially losing money because you are missing out on the tax benefits. And so when you're paying off these student loans, or when you're debating on paying off the loans versus saving for retirement, you might want to consider after-tax costs, or after-tax from an after-tax perspective. Because if you're getting a tax benefit from the student loans, if you're getting a tax benefit by delaying those student or paying your minimum monthly payments every month, and so you're getting that tax benefit. So let's say your 6% interest rate is now 3%, cut in half, for example. Let's just say hypothetically. And now you take whatever money that you would have used to pay off the student loans, you put it into a retirement account, and let's say you're getting a tax benefit of another 3%, let's just say hypothetically. So now, basically, you're paying 0% for that student loan. And so by you paying off the loan, by you accelerating or trying to accelerate it instead of saving for retirement, you're losing out on a lot from an after-tax perspective. So I would say when making financial decisions, always think about it from an after-tax perspective, not a before-tax. Don't just look at, oh, I owe $10,000 in student loans and the interest rate is 5%. Think about, what can you do with that interest rate? Can you write it off? How much can you earn if you save for a retirement account? Is your employer matching you? Meaning that if you're paying off this loan instead of putting it into your retirement account, how much are you losing from that actual match? So you have to take all these things into consideration. And so from an after-tax perspective, it makes a very strong case why you should not pay off your student loans early, and instead try to accelerate your retirement savings. And remember, your retirement money is your money, so you have access to it at any time. The biggest misconception with the Roth IRA is that you can't touch it until you're age 59 and a half. Although I don't recommend doing this, you're always more than welcome to take out principal at any given time, without any sort of penalties, without any sort of taxes. You can take out principal from a Roth IRA at any given time with zero repercussions. And so that's another thing. You could also treat it like a savings account. So you should definitely, I don't think it's worth it to be trying to accelerate your student loan payments, especially when your interest rate is, let's say, 5% or even 6%. You're better off saving for retirement or putting it into an investment. And I forgot to mention, but paying off your student loans early, that delays very important things such as buying a home, getting married, just different things like that. And I don't recommend you spend a lot of money on your wedding or overspending on your wedding. But what I am saying is that paying off those loans early can cut deeply into your budget and prevent things such as getting married. And as we know, a lot of millennials nowadays are deferring or delaying certain things like home purchases, even car purchases, and things like getting married as well. Although it's probably not the best thing to try to rush marriage or try to overpay for your wedding. And then, yeah, so I talked about this before, but you would be missing out on the employer match if you're not taking advantage of these retirement accounts. And I think the smart thing to do is to contribute to your 401k up to the match, and then put whatever difference into an IRA, just so you have more control over your money. and you just have more flexibility and things like that. Because an IRA is way more flexible than a 401k. And then the rule of thumb is that at least, at a minimum, bare minimum, 10% of your gross income should be going towards your retirement each and every year. And that could be across all retirement accounts. So whether it's a 401k, IRA, whether it's a pension or anything, not even a pension, but just like an annuity, life insurance, anything like that. And so saving for retirement early, that's really going to help you set you up nicely for retirement. Because if you're saving early, you're hitting your benchmarks, you're hitting your 10% targets, then you should have no problem being able to retire when you want to retire. Of course, the market changes, there's market fluctuations, but that's why you work with people who know what they're talking about and know what they're doing, so they'll put you in the right vehicles at the right time. At the end of the day, nobody can predict the market. Nobody knows when the market will go down. Nobody knows when a recession is about to happen. But it's proven that over the long term, over and over and over again, a dollar, let's say 50 years back then, is probably worth, let's say, about at least $100 today. And so you hear these stories, oh, my uncle put $100 into Apple stock, say 10 years ago, and now it's worth $700 or $800. These are all true things, because over time money tends to grow, even inflation and just different things like that. So all of these, for example, if you look at a company's 5-year chart, if you look at Google, Amazon, Apple, General Electric, AT&T, the 5-year chart is always going up. If you look at a 10-year chart, same thing, 15-year chart, 20-year chart. And so although you have a risk of losing money, I think it's safe to say that your retirement account is going to grow over time during the long run. Now, if you're trading penny stocks with your retirement account, then this does not apply to you, because you might be going downhill instead of uphill. And so overall, from a long-term investment perspective, you should be on the rise each and every time. So paying off student loans before saving for retirement is really, or it can be a very, very costly mistake. So basically saving for retirement versus paying off the student loans, by doing that is you're gaining the tax advantages, you're building your credit, you're incorporating all these flexible features. And remember, once you pay it off, there is no going back and say, oh, by the way, my financial advisor just told me that I shouldn't have paid this off. Can we redo the loan or something? They can never do that. So you want to discuss these things beforehand with people that you know. And so, at the end of the day, I believe that it's a costly mistake by rushing that student loan payment. It's like this thing that you just have to get off your back. It's like a bird that's on your back or something. But remember, you're always going to have bills, even when you die. You're going to have funeral costs. You're going to have estate management expenses. You're going to have certain expenses no matter what. For example, Michael Jackson is still paying bills to this day, and he's still making a lot of money because of his estate. So these are just different concepts, is that don't really rush. There's no need to really rush that student loan payment, unless, if and only if, that the interest rates are too high, let's say 10% or above, and or you can't write off the interest. In that case, it would be financially sound to actually just go ahead and pay them off. Or let's say your debt ratio is too high. You're applying for a loan, maybe a mortgage or something, and you can't get it because your debt ratio is essentially too high. And then only take out loans when you need the money. Not necessarily when you need to take out a loan, but just when you need the money, period. And so it might not be best to fund your college with savings. Sometimes it might be smart to do it through essentially a loan that's a loan that's being paid by the government while you're still in college. So a subsidized loan, essentially. So it might be smart. So instead of you actually going into your savings, let's say you need $10,000 one year. Instead of let's say you have $10,000 sitting in the bank, but you need $10,000 to go to college. So instead of dipping into your savings, if this is available, it might be smarter to take out that student loan of $10,000, a Stafford, like let's say a subsidized loan, because you're not paying interest. It's an interest-free loan, so that way you keep the $10,000, stash maybe in a bank account, or maybe you invest it, so that at the end of year 4, let's say you've earned 5% on your money each and every year. That's much better than paying off that college education or that college expense with the $10,000 in savings, because now your money is actually earning. So and financially, it definitely doesn't make sense to use that $10,000 in savings to go pay off your education. Rather, you might want to take out that $10,000 subsidized loan that you pay no interest whatsoever, and use that money to pay off the loan. Now, you might have fees and things like that, but most of the time, the fees aren't that high compared to what you can actually earn in the market. And as I always say, a plumber, I would say if you're not a plumber, you should probably not try to go fix a toilet that's leaking really bad. And so, same thing with money. You should probably work with an advisor. If you're not financially savvy, or if you're not an expert in these money subjects, you might want to work with somebody who can walk you through some of these things, or teach you some of these things in order to determine which options are best for you. Because at the end of the day, although I believe that it's not smart to pay off your student loans early, in most cases, that might not be the case for you. Maybe your interest rate is too high, or maybe there's something that's going on where had you paid off that loan early, it would have been financially smart. So maybe that's the case, but you wouldn't really notice if you're not financially savvy, or if you don't have any sort of savviness when it comes to these topics. And so it might be best to sit down with somebody, perhaps not even a financial advisor, or maybe like a coach, or maybe get some sort of consultation with somebody that hopefully they know what they're talking about. So I always recommend, and this applies to everything in life. If you're not a marketing expert, you shouldn't be doing your own marketing. If you're not a plumber, you shouldn't be out fixing toilets. If you're not a tax pro and you have a fairly complicated tax return, you probably shouldn't be doing your own taxes. So I'm a big advocate of using professionals. And for example, if you have a legal case, you probably don't want to defend yourself in court. You probably want to hire an attorney. And sometimes you don't even have to pay this attorney until the case is closed, only if you win. And so I'm a huge advocate of using professionals. So my recommendation, on top of everything that I've already said today, is to go out and seek those professionals that would be able to help you with such sensitive and important matters, such as your finances. So I think that's a huge reason why a lot of people are lacking financially, because they don't seek out the expert help, either because maybe they can't afford it, although some people don't even ask. Sometimes they just can't afford it, or they're not ready for whatever reason. They're just delaying it. Maybe they're too busy at work. Maybe they have kids that they have to take care of. So I think that it's worth it to actually go ahead and get expert advice versus trying to go everything on your own or just ignoring it, period. And so when you have people that say they're living paycheck to paycheck, or they're having issues financially, I think getting started from the ground up, or getting advice from an advisor or somebody who knows what they're talking about, I think that will help you out tremendously. I mean, it's like a fitness coach. If you're not a fitness if you're not a fit person, and let's say you're having issues with your health, then I'm sure a fitness coach or a fitness instructor is going to help you tremendously. So if you know nothing about fitness, you might not want to work out on your own. You might want to hire a fitness coach or a fitness instructor. So I'm a huge advocate when it comes to that. I hire professionals to do everything. Whenever my toilet is broken, I go to my plumber, who's a close friend of mine. So it just these different things. I mean, I even talk to a lot of financial advisors about my own personal finances sometimes, because there are certain things or certain areas where I'm not the most expert in, and so I have to seek out their help. So even financial pros seek out help of other financial pros. So if you're not a financial pro, then you might just need to seek out the help of one. And some people offer free consultations and things like that. So I would definitely recommend taking advantage of that as well. But overall, I think when it comes to the student loans, I believe that it is smart to just do the minimum payments, and not sort of rush it or feel like it's just this huge burden on your shoulder. Just continuously pay it off. Just pay it monthly. Do your monthly payments, and then at some point, it might be smart if the interest rates, let's say you have a variable interest rate, or let's say you're getting ready to buy a home and your debt ratio is too high, that's when you might want to look at accelerating those payments. But for now, if you don't have any major purchases coming up, if your interest rates are, let's say 5%, then there's no need. There's definitely not a need to go ahead and try to pay them off too early. And so really that's the presentation for today. I definitely look forward to giving you all some more presentations in the future. And I would say if you ever have a topic or anything like that, please feel free to reach out to me. My number is 773-679-7198. You can call me at any time. You can shoot me a text. You can WhatsApp me. You can email me at jeffbadu@gmail.com, or my website jeffbadu.com. So if you have any topics, because I have talked about a lot of things on this radio station, and there's only so much that you can talk about when it comes to finances. And so if you ever have a topic or anything, hopefully something I haven't already talked about, if you have something like that, please feel free to let me know. Reach out to me, and I'll see if I can put together a presentation for that. But basically, any topic in the world, I can essentially talk about it. I've basically touched on every single aspect of a person's financial life. But there are different things that I can throw in there, maybe throw in like a story, or I do have a few stories on my website that I shared. For example, where it was a guy who was in college, and he had no money in the bank, and so he got drunk at a party, and he had to go to the hospital, and his hospital bill was $2,000, for example, and he had no way to pay it off. And so he had to take out an emergency loan, or he just would have had some terrible things on his credit score, which unfortunately is the case with many Americans, is that the credit score isn't good because of certain things like medical bills. So I can definitely put it into story formats, as I've done on my website. So if you ever have any topics that you are interested in finding out more about, please let me know, and I will be more than happy to accommodate it. But you can always reach out to me on my website, phone, email, text message, WhatsApp, just any different site or any different platform. You can always reach out to me. But I definitely thank everyone for tuning in. It's always a pleasure to have people tune into this segment, because it is a very important segment. We're talking about a very sensitive matter. So I look forward to helping more people, and I will be doing some more financial seminars throughout the year. So I definitely hope you all are able to attend some of those as well. But definitely thank you all for tuning in to WGHC 98.3 FM, your voice, your music, your station. My name is Jeff Badu, and I look forward to continuously delivering you all some financial content. Thank you.